What's up, Melanated family? This is your boy Harrison from MelanatedFathers.com and Melanated Fathers TV, and this is What's the Scenario, where we basically take a parenting scenario, a relationship scenario, and get to the bottom of what's really going on with this situation. Now, for today, I'm going to get right into it. What I want to talk to the family about, here's the scenario. What if you're a parent, a parent in the Black community? What if you're a parent and your son, we're going to talk specifically about our sons today, and your son has decided to either sell drugs, your son has decided to hang with the wrong people, to join a gang, he's into some type of illegal activity. How do you take that? When you realize this is a path your son has chosen, what do you make of that? Do you think it's your fault? That's what we're going to talk about today. When our kids get into these negative situations that don't mean them no good, that's going to take them down a path that's either going to lead them to death or prison, who's to blame for that? Are we to put the full accountability of their decisions on them? You know what I'm saying? Is that what we actually do? Or do we take accountability as parents and take a look at how we raise them, the situations we put them in, and kind of come to an understanding that way, right? Because this is the thing, family. Black people in America, when we look at systemic racism and, a lot of the different things we've been through with the system, a lot of our communities are financially or are in financial ruins because of a lot of these things. And we have to factor that into it. Like our broken family system, because people are quick to quote these statistics about, 75% of all Black homes don't have a father in them. That can be true, right? There's definitely some truth to that, but you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you don't look deep into what actually caused this type of shit, right? So again, I reiterate these things a lot, but we got to pound this shit to the Black family's head, man. Jim Crow, redlining, institutionalized racism, prison system, all these things has contributed to the state that we're in right now. But here's the thing, family. Even with all that being said, if we have a teenager, if we have a young dude, if we have a young man in these communities and we're raising them, and he decides to either do drugs heavy, deal drugs heavy, rob niggas, whatever he's into in the street, under no circumstances can we look at that situation and say, okay, that's just on the kid, or I did my best. I don't know how he turned out that way, because what we need to do, all of us, me included, what we need to do is take a step back and look at everything you provided or did not provide. I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about spiritually. I'm talking about mentally. What did you provide for your child? And like I spoke about this on the show on Monday, and we're kind of following that same thread of topic. If you raised your child in, for one, if you raised them in an economically deprived neighborhood for whatever reason, because you couldn't afford to live elsewhere, because you felt comfortable there, whatever the fucking reason is, that has to play a part in it. If he came from a broken home, if you and the mother did not work things out and you guys are at odds, or you guys weren't able to get on the same page to the point where the kid is spending valued time with both of you, that's going to have an effect on how he handles himself, right? If you as a parent, if it's a one parent in the home and the environment is kind of fucked up and you're not able to spend a lot of time with them because you're working all the time, or you're not able to provide all of the things that they want because the financials are short, these are things we have to take into account. What I was speaking about Monday is what I think we shouldn't do. We have to understand history. We have to understand how we got ourselves in this situation, but we also have to take accountability. You can't look at your son or daughter who has made bad decisions as a young person and say, okay, well, I did my best. They just doing what they got to do. No, that's not how that shit works. In order to make sure, because if you have younger children, it's important that you take inventory on what the fuck you did wrong with the older kids that you may have. So you can't look at the situation and say, okay, they're older, they just doing what they do. No. Were you able to provide them what they needed as a child? If you were not able to provide them what they needed and the environment, because we got to understand where we come from and how, a portion of our community is materialistic. Like, we're looking at the shiny shit when it comes to what we think is substantive, right? So if you're in a situation where your kid is looking at the rappers, looking at the dudes in the neighborhood who got money, all these flashy things, and you were not able to provide these things, if you were not able to put your child in a situation where they don't need nothing. Because keep in mind, even if you have a father in the home, a mother in the home, and a kid doing street shit or following the wrong crowd, that's gonna happen. Some people are just followers, family. That's something we gotta deal with. Some people are just followers. But in my opinion, for the most part, if both parents are there, if both parents took the time to establish themselves financially, to establish themselves in their prospective career, whatever they decided to do with their life, if they took the time to establish these things and plant the seeds for these things, more than likely, your kid won't find himself on the street. Your kid won't look at that type of lifestyle as being a viable option. A lot of our kids look at these things as viable options because of what we do not provide for them, family. We got to be honest about that. Now, I'm a big proponent of looking at racism and looking at the institutions that have fucked us. We got to look at that. We have to do our due diligence about history so we can understand how a lot of these things have come to be. I'm with that. We should do that. Like, that helped me. That I think that'll help all of us gain the proper perspective we need when we're looking at these things. I think that can help you be accountable. When you look at, man, my family was involved in the crack era. They got arrested. A lot of shit happened at that time that we're still dealing with today. Our families couldn't get houses in the 60s and 70s because of redlining and all these things that, white families got a leg up on us to a degree. So yes, all of this happened, but even with all that being said, we still have to put our best foot forward. We still have to look at how we have children. We still have to factor in that a lot of us, not all, can't speak in absolutes, but a lot of us have children before we even consider how their life's going to be. We have children based on the fact that we just want company. We have children based on the fact that we just love the person that we with, and we're not even thinking about the future of the kid. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, we can look at racism. We can look at all these different factions, and again, that will help you put life into perspective. But at the end of the day, you got to take accountability for what you did or didn't do with your child. I'm sick of seeing all these young dudes out here running wild, no guidance, no father, whatever. And then you talk to the parent, they got a fucking excuse. You talk to the parent, they nigga-splain it. They, I try my best. He always been like that. What kind of shit is that, man? If you have family, look, if you got a kid that's in jail right now, if you got a teenager that's in jail, if you got a teenager that has a woman pregnant or a girl that is pregnant, if you have a teenager that's heavily on drugs, if you got a teenager that don't go to school, that's not responsible, you gotta look at yourself, family. Ain't no way we can just put this shit on these kids. These children walking around, shit, they brains ain't even fully developed yet. You see what I'm saying? So we gotta take inventory of what the fuck we did wrong, because if not, we're gonna pass down this same polluted way of thinking to our kids. So our kids is gonna grow up and have kids at an early age, not putting too much onus on a stable relationship, not putting too much onus on a stable environment. Like, structure in a stable environment goes a long way, family. And it seems like in our community, not all of us, again, I'm not speaking in absolutes, but a lot of us have gotten away from the basics. What are the basics? Meet a woman, meet a man, spend time getting to know this person, even years to a degree, because in my opinion, like, on some real shit, before anybody has a kid, I think you should be together 5 years. Yeah, I said it, 5 years. You should be in a solid relationship for 5 full fucking years before you decide that you want to have a child with this person. 2 of those years should be living together. Out of those 5 years, 2 of those years should be living together. If you don't live with a motherfucker and then you have a baby with him, or you don't live with him and then you marry him, you're setting yourself up for destruction, family, because you don't fucking know him. You gotta live with somebody to know him. That's a fact. So 5 years, because this is the thing. If you meet somebody and you feel like y'all made for each other, you feel like y'all have a future together, what's 5 years? That's not a long time in retrospect. It's not really a long time, family, but we need to understand the importance of our family structure. Now, of course, sometimes even after 5 years or whatever amount of time you with a motherfucker, it's a possibility that it won't work. That's always a possibility. But let's do the inventory. Let's look at our families. Let's look at our communities. Let's look at the people we know, right? That have children with people that they're not in relationships with anymore. Maybe the situation is rocky. Maybe the kid don't see the father. Whatever the fuck happened, let's look at those situations and how many of those people was together for several years before they had a kid. How many of those people were in adult relationships with each other for years before they decide to make a fucking family out of it, right? We go right to the family. We start fucking with somebody and all of a sudden we want to have a baby. You have a baby after a year. You have a baby after a year and a half. Now, to me, that shit just don't work. Now, granted, there's exceptions to every rule. You can meet somebody after 6 months and y'all can live happily ever after. That happens in society, but that's rare. Let's keep that shit real. That's rare. So we start off our families in this fucked up conundrum where we're having a baby with somebody that we don't know that well. We're getting to know them as we raise a baby. The shit's all fucked up, right? So at the end of the day, if this is how we start, a lot of times, it bleeds off into our children. And then you have a 16, 17, 18-year-old person who wasn't raised with certain tools, wasn't raised with a certain level of structure. So they finna go out in the world like, fuck it. My dad didn't care about me. My mom barely talked to me. My mom was always working. I'm gonna get out here in these streets. and connect with other dudes who may have had that same experience, right? So do I look at our young men and think, okay, they need to stop killing each other. They need to stop gang banging to a degree. It's a lot of shit I don't like when I'm looking at our young people, right? That's a fact. But the first thing I go to, and this is me included, family, me as a parent included, the first thing I go to is, okay, what did the parents do or not do? And a lot of times, if you see a young man who's troubled, who's going through shit in the street, who's all the way out there, if you look behind the goddamn curtain and look at his parents, there's going to be some form of dysfunction there. You feel me? So that's something we have to address as a community. Now we have, because I'm not a big proponent of the whole black on black crime shit. We all know that crime is a proximity thing. So whoever you're around, you're gonna kill. So I don't like all these bullshit talking points that kind of points a finger at our society, at black society, not factor in all of the institutionalized racism and the systemic oppression that we face. You know, those a lot of people who bring up those arguments aren't factoring in those things. But if we talking real, if we talking to each other, if we saying, okay, family, I love you, black family, I love you, but as a community, there's a lot of things we can start doing different today. You feel me? So look, man, this has been another episode of What's the Scenario? I want all the family to comment. Let's talk about that, family. This is something as a community that we need to get to the bottom of. If our kids is running the street, if we got a teenager in jail, if we got a teenager selling big dope, if we got a teenager packing a gun, shooting niggas, who's to blame for this mentality? Are we just going to blame it on the system and say, okay, he'd have a dad because his dad was in jail because of the prison, the school to prison pipeline? We can look at the details about shit that has happened to us and blame that, but it's layers that have to be peeled back. So yes, there is a system in place that put us behind, that put other races of people above us financially, educationally. They put them above us. But the question then becomes, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I implore all my family members out there to empower themselves by learning history. Learning history, get a perspective of how we got into this situation, and then turn the mirror right back on yourself. Okay, what did you do to participate in some of the destruction of your people? What did you do to perpetuate certain stereotypes, right? If we're not being accountable personally, then none of this shit is gonna work, family. You feel me? So this has been another episode, man, of What's the Scenario? Comment, like the video, hit that notification bell on YouTube so you can be informed of when new videos drop. Family, I'm out.